At the start of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you've got nothing.
No cash, no credit, no job history.
It's up to Henry to find his place in the world again. So here's everything you should do first to succeed in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Let's go. This video is sponsored by Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is out now on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and X, and you can check it out and learn more in the link in the description down below. Let me know any cool tips you have found in the comments down below. Start with something you should do immediately as soon as you get access to the open world, and that's to make these 2 potions. Now, the first one is a healing potion that you absolutely should have plenty of all the time, and the second one is the save mechanic. So while you're in Troskowitz right at the start of the game, you can actually get the materials in order to make these potions. And something to note is that all the potions from the first game, they actually still work in KCD2 if you know the recipe. They just make the weak version here, and there are new ones that make the strong recipe, which I'll teach you how to make without having to buy the recipe. As if you can just figure out the recipes, you don't actually need to buy it. It'll just automatically get added to your recipe book once you've made one of them. So firstly, marigold decoction, which is what actually allows you to heal mostly in the game. Now, if you have a pouch, you can put this on your pouch and heal openly during combat, but it's very useful to use even outside of combat. Firstly, you need to go and grab some marigold and some nettle, and you can actually get this in Troskowitz. Now, marigold you'll find right out the front of where the alchemy bench is, and then along the road leaving the town is where you'll find nettle. Make sure you grab plenty of metal as you'll need it for the next one as well. So the recipe here, in order to make a strong marigold decoction, which will heal you for the most, first you need to add water and then 1 handful of nettle to the pot. You'll need to boil it for 2 turns and then take it off the heat, and then you'll need to grind 2 handfuls of marigold in the mortar and pestle and then dump that into the decoction, and then grab the vial and pour into it, and now you've got strong marigold decoction. Now, if you have the right amount of perks, you'll be able to make multiple of these just by doing this once, so you'll be able to get more bang for your buck, which is something that's different from KCD1. Save your schnapps, on the other hand, you still need that nettle, but you actually need belladonna, which is much harder to find out in the world. I would recommend you just go to the apothecary in the town and buy it. Now, any apothecaries will often have just belladonna. Even dried belladonna is completely fine to use here as well. So grab that and then go back to the alchemy bench. Now here you want to add wine and then add nettle, exactly the same as you did before, and then boil it for 2 turns, and then make sure you take it off the heat, and then you'll need to grind 2 handfuls of belladonna in the mortar and pestle, and then dump that into the decoction, and then boil it again for 1 turn, take it off the heat, grab the vial and pour, and you've made yourself a savior schnapps. There are plenty of other potions that you can make. Now you can obviously just go and buy the recipes if you choose to, but if you figure them out yourself or you remember them from KCD1, they do also work. But these are the 2 main ones that you want to make sure you're stocked up on at all times, and when you are running low, just go and quickly make some more or buy some more if you do want to, but it can save yourself that extra Groshen. You could even sell some if you're struggling to earn Groshen in the early game, which I'll tell you how to do a little bit later in this video. You will spend a lot of time just traveling around this world. Now, if you don't like to walk, you can buy a horse early on or steal one, and it's even possible to sell horses that you steal or just make them your permanent horse. Now, I do recommend if you want to buy one that you go to Samine, as you'll find an old friend here, Pebbles, that you can convince the stable master that it's actually your horse, and then you can get Pebbles for free rather than having to pay. Alternatively, you can just steal a horse. Now, if you simply just steal a horse, it doesn't become like your horse. You can't summon it or use it as storage, but in the nomad camp, there is a horse vendor that you can either sell a stolen horse to for really good coin, or you can actually register the horse, so then it actually just becomes like your normal horse. It does cost a fair bit, like it's a pretty significant fee. Probably wouldn't be doing this super early in the game, but definitely a great way to make Groshen early game is by selling horses. Just try not to get caught. More on stealing in a little bit. But Mutt is also back in KCD2. One of the early side quests, you will have you sent around the map looking for Mutt. I do highly recommend that you do this quest and find Mutt, as he's a huge part of the game. He can help you in combat by attacking enemies, making encounters significantly easier, especially if you've got multiple enemies, because he can pull one of them away from you. You can also teach him a bunch of commands, like say hunting for wild game if you're looking for food, barking to distract enemies if you're trying to sneak in certain areas that enemies are guarding, or even just tracking quest objectives. In certain quests, he can actually track things for you, but he is super handy to have with you. Just make sure you do remember to feed him. Combat in the early game is quite tough as well, much like it was in KCD1. KCD2 requires you to get good at combat, both you personally and understanding and knowing the combos like from memory, as well as Henry's actual skill in game. Now, while KCD2, you already have some of those basic combat skills you would have remembered from KCD1 with most weapons. In the early game, I do highly recommend that you lean on a mace, a warhammer, or an axe, especially with a shield, as it's much easier to see success with these weapon types compared to, say, a sword, which does require a lot more skill, and armored enemies are very common in the game and they take much more damage from these weapon types as well. So definitely more beneficial to use those weapons until you get that proficiency up. But what you should be doing as well is heading to the Nomad camp. Now here you can do the combat training, which will teach you a free combo, but you can also learn the Master Strike from this trainer as well. Now this will require you to beat him in standard combat, which is quite challenging in the early game. So I would recommend you not worry about this and come back a little bit later, because the Master Strike only works with swords now. So if you're not actually using a sword, there isn't much point in knowing this very early in the game. But ultimately throughout the game, there's a lot of these like combat masters that you can actually learn skills from. You can talk to them and just have them teach you like level ups for the skills. You can also pay Groschen to learn new combos, which is actually how you learn combos now. Now, not all masters will know all combos, so you have to find certain ones. This does cost Groschen, but it is absolutely well worth doing, as those combos will make significant improvements to your overall combat ability. And then you can also just like ask them to do general training, which will help you actually learn those combos and use those combos in combat, which I do recommend you do as well. Managing your nutrition and energy is a core part of your day-to-day in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Food is pretty easy to manage. Like, you kind of just need a little bit of food, and it does give you a little bit of HP recovery, by the way, as well. And you can buy food from grocers, taverns, bakers, or you can hunt it yourself out in the open world. But sleeping is the big one. Now, sleeping in the wrong bed, you can definitely get in trouble for doing this. Now, a lot of the main quest locations will have a bed available to you that you can sleep in and actually do the sleep and save because you own that bed. But while you're out exploring, I would recommend to pay the cost at taverns and lodgings. Now, this allows you to create a save when you sleep in those beds. Something to note as well is if you are thinking that you need to sleep as well, like consider, say, reading a book before you go to sleep if you do have skill books to learn skills, or say playing some dice because dice can get up your agility, or doing something like that while you're in that tavern and lodging space before you go to sleep, so you can actually help like level up those skills. Now, I would recommend to pay the extra fee so you have that room permanently. It does cost more, but it'll just save you having to like pay the extra cost down the road if you do come back to that inn, which you probably will do. Something to note is that these rooms always have like a magic chest in them that will store like an unlimited amount of things for you, that you can open that chest anywhere in the world and will always have that same stuff in it. Something to note is that you can access that chest without having to pay the room cost. So if you just want to like store some, say, crafting materials or something like that, you can just jump in there and store that without having to pay the room cost. I would also recommend washing yourself daily, just like in real life. It makes it easier when dealing with people if you don't smell bad. The wash buckets will clean you to a certain point, but the bathhouses can remove all the dirt and also heal you, as well as other services on top of that. But you can also wash your own clothes now in certain like piers of water or streams. If you've got some soap, you can actually wash your own clothes without having to pay the bathhouse cost. At the start of the game, you have 0 Groschen, and earning those few hundred Groschen is definitely a challenge, but there are a couple of ways to speed up that process. Now, firstly, I did touch on the black market horse trader I mentioned earlier. It is pretty easy to steal a horse. Just obviously make sure you're doing it at night when it's dark. You can steal the horse, bring it all the way to the Nomad camp, put it in the right spot, and then you can sell it for a couple of hundred Groschen. Very easy way to make a couple of Groschen in the early game. Honorably though, if you want to, say, complete quests or sell bandits gear that you defeat in the world, you can do this to earn some Groschen a bit more of an honorable way. Don't forget to actually haggle the vendors as well to earn yourself a couple of extra Groschen. Dishonorably though, you can steal or pickpocket whatever you like. Now, obviously, traders and blacksmiths, etc., they always have better gear than just your typical run-of-the-mill farmers that you might be stealing from in the world. If you go this route, I do recommend you head down to the miller's like main quest pretty early, as he'll actually help you learn to lockpick and pickpocket and get that skill up quickly. And the more you get that skill up, the more perks you'll be able to unlock, which will definitely help you in the long run, because when you actually do start trying to do this in the open world, you really will get caught sometimes, especially early on. It's very easy to get caught. Now, the big thing to remember here is obviously not to get seen, so make sure you're wearing dark clothes and not making much noise, especially if you have Mutt with you. He can actually get you seen because he might bark at other dogs, or he might just make noise and people will draw attention to him. Make sure you move him away, tell him to stay somewhere else, or even say use the bark command to distract enemies if they are nearby. If a lock is too hard for you in the early game, which a lot of them will be, almost all NPCs have keys for their specific locked chests and doors. So if you know a shopkeeper is like going to go to sleep somewhere, or you can pickpocket his key, you'll be able to access the place later at night when it is locked. Or say if you're even just like standing over their chest and their chest is too hard for you, you can pickpocket them while they're asleep, take the key, unlock their chest, take take all their goods, and then away you go. You should then take your stealings to another village or the miller and sell them. Don't sell them in that same village, as you mostly likely get caught. If the vendor knows it's stolen, they won't pay you as much, but you can still actually earn a little bit of Groschen. The miller will pay you more, but you can sometimes get away with selling like one stolen item at full price if it's amongst like non-stolen items. So that's something to mention as well. But that's all I have for you today. Let me know any cool things you have found in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, so we can all help each other out. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.